We have today an OG marketer.
How did you do that, man? Not a lot of guys around that time were able to do both, and you did it. So what was the difference?
Heavy equipment that's used in crane and rigging. And I put this free classified up, and within 6 months, there was $250 million worth of cranes on that site for sale. It was crazy because nobody had ever done it. We put a big fat 800 number on the top of every page. And so we're open from 9 to 5, call us. And people did, and they do, and they appreciate it. We went live at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, and we had our first customer at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They found it organically. What are the freaking odds of that?
How marketing's changed, the landscape's changing, what's the new thing, how it was back in the day. What's up, Amazing Marketing Show listeners? Welcome back. We have today an OG marketer, OG 1997, taking credit cards, taking names, not a scammer, a marketer, a real marketer. We're going to talk about how marketing's changed, the landscape's changing, what's the new thing, how it was back in the day. Really excited for this actually, because I'm not an OG. I'm like a medium G, 2012. I mean, Tom's going to go way back. Before I introduce Tom, our guest, Tom Wilkerson, I'm going to introduce my co-host as always, Chris Gray. Chris, how are you?
Dmitri, what up?
I'm living the dream. Tom, welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me, you guys. It's I'm sure that everyone's super interested in nostalgia and you know where the internet was 30 years ago. Well, we'll see if we can find something interesting to talk about what we might be working on these days. But I've been selling crap on the internet for a really long time. I was in the crane and rigging business, and I was the tools that we used in the crane and rigging business in 1997. It was really hard to find them. And when the internet came out, I put together a store that sold all the rigging equipment that people needed, and it just took off. It was crazy. So that's my origin story in 1997.
Tom, with you being around and selling things online before online became, a thing or popular, what do you think is one of the single biggest mistakes people do when it comes to selling things online?
Not talking to your customers. I mean, people that don't talk to their customers, they're not constantly having conversations with their customers, or they're hiding behind a Shopify site or something, is just absolutely insane. And the other thing is not having something that pulls people back. The reason that in 97 Rigger Supply was so successful is that we put a free classified section on that site for cranes, and they're all giant, multi-million-dollar cranes, but nobody had a site dedicated just to cranes and heavy equipment that's used in crane and rigging. And I put this free classified up, and within 6 months, there was $250 million worth of cranes on that site for sale. It was crazy because nobody had ever done it. So having something that makes people, give them a reason, an excuse to come back, and I want to see how my ad's doing. Is it still up? And they came in and they just kept buying stuff. It was great.
All right. So 1997, though, most people didn't trust the internet. They thought they were going to get scammed. Their money is going to get stolen. I mean, how are you able to deliver the quality assurance?
Super easy. The only reason we're having this conversation, you guys, and I'll say this to anybody who asks, and I've said it for forever, is that we put a big fat 800 number on the top of every page. And so we're open from 9 to 5, call us. And people did, and they do, and they appreciate it. And they're like, oh, how does this work? What's happening? How can you sell this stuff online? At that time, the guy who kind of pioneered credit card payments was Bert Sugarman. And he had the blue blockers. Remember the blue blockers from the 80s? Going way back?
Yeah,
Dmitri probably doesn't. But he was the guy that kind of pioneered taking credit cards without the credit card being present. And that was a big deal. So it was, everything just, kind of evolves and keeps changing. And if you're changing with it, But really the credibility thing was really all about the 800 number. You're like, what are you guys doing? How are you doing this? You can't do that online. Well, yeah, you can. Here's how. Let me show you.
Well,
So,
it seems like, sorry, Chris,
no, you're
a
good.
little follow up here. It's that may have been true in 1997, but now in 2025, no one wants to talk to anybody on the phone. In fact, you're probably better off stealing their car or something than calling them on the phone. It'd be less of a crime to steal their car. So how do you do it? Has anything changed?
My phone rings dozens and dozens of times every day, Dmitri. Every day. People that are trying to figure it out, they're having a problem with logging in, they're having, a little customer service issue here and there. And they just need a little bit of help to get over the finish line. And I completely disagree. I'm going to push back. If you don't have some kind of a human touch, most people don't want a human touch, but the people that have a sincere desire to accomplish a specific task, and that's what my stuff does. It accomplishes a very specific task in a finite amount of time for a finite amount of money. So am I doing this the right way, the wrong way, the legal way? Am I going to get in trouble, regarding, forklift certification? But, they call all day, every day. And our customer service people, we have customers that have been with us for 20 years. They have like best friends. They get invited to parties. They go to their kids' anniversaries and shit. It's crazy.
Something that you said that stood out to me, Tom, was you're talking about back then people didn't want to get out, or people don't want to get out in front of their customers, and you did that, right? And then also in today's age, you have Shopify where you don't really need to kind of get out there. So could you tell me a little bit more about the importance of getting out there in front of the customer with that personal touch?
Chris, I'm not out in front of the customer. The customer is in front of me, and all I'm doing is responding. That's it. I'm not in front of anybody. A lot of people kind of miss the whole idea of product market fit. And if you don't have product market fit and you're trying to squeeze a round peg into a square hole or vice versa, however that goes, it's going to be an uphill battle. But when you find product market fit, people are genuinely engaged, they're genuinely interested, and they genuinely are trying to solve a specific problem. That's really the reality in my business anyway.
Okay, so in 1997, you started with this website. You had hundreds of $1 million worth of equipment online, and were transactions happening?
Yeah, our average transaction on that site was $14,000. Our biggest transaction was $55,000. I only had it open for maybe two and a half years. No, the U.S. Navy wanted to sign a giant contract for us to supply these specialized slings for them. So I knew a guy in Phoenix that knew how to make these special things. They sent me an RFP. We kind of half-assed responded. I was like, I could do business with the Navy. Are you kidding me? And they really want us to do it, but we just said, no, we can't do that right now. And I was running my own full-time crane and rigging business. I had 25 guys in the field, a 50,000 square foot warehouse. I'm doing these giant jobs at Motorola and Intel and, giant semiconductor fab jobs and manufacturing, moving complete total industrial manufacturing facilities, lock, stock, and barrel from Indiana to Phoenix or Phoenix to Mesa, So I really didn't have time to pursue it. And when the online education thing came available, I'm like, well, I got to buy this stuff. And the whole me selling into everybody's territory in 1997 was really freaky because the industrial supply mechanism and supply chains were centered around a centralized distribution guy. There'd be a guy in Arizona, and he handles Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado because they don't sell a lot of this stuff. It's big, heavy industrial stuff that's expensive. It's hard to ship, and people don't really stock it, but they'll have distributors. And I'm selling into everybody's distributor network all across the country. And these guys are freaking out because they're like, hey, man, yeah, I just bought that $6,000 set of rollers from this guy on the internet. It was great. And they're going, well, wait a minute. I'm the Hillman rep. How come I didn't get that sale? And so they were a little freaked out about it. But the whole idea of I'd have to get the sale, collect the money, send the money to the rep, to the manufacturer, because I was just a wholesale rep, and arrange all the shipping and do all these steps along the way to do it. And when the online education thing came up in 2000, I'm like, well, geez, I can build this once and sell it over and over again, and I don't have to touch it or think about it. I'm all in. So I just let the rigger supply completely go fallow. Didn't stop responding to calls. Didn't do anything to promote it, and it just kind of died away. I tried to give it away to 5 of my friends, and they're like, "What?" I don't get what, when you're trying to talk, we all three, it's great because we can talk to each other about marketing and know what the guy's going to say before he even says it. And we have such a great time talking about it. But civilians, they just don't, we're in a different world than they are. We might as well be speaking a different language, So,
Yeah, we do speak a different language. We speak the language that they want to hear so that they buy it. But as long as it's good, right? If it's a good product, then we're not doing anything wrong. We're doing a service. We're making a market.
We wouldn't be having this conversation if you weren't solving some problem for somebody, right?
Well, speaking of that, actually, it seems like most problems, or at least the perception of most problems, seem to be online. And the whole world for a lot of people is online and AI and this and that. But now you've been in the industrial business, the actual physical heavy machinery things. I mean, that world still exists. It's still out there.
Yes, Dmitri, it does.
Yeah, but what does it look like?
Well,
I mean,
it's bigger and broader and vaster than it ever was. In the late '90s, just a little history on the Industrial Revolution. There truly was an Industrial Revolution in the late '80s, '90s. That era when the CNC machine came to about. And CNC means computer numeric controlled. So they're not adjusting dials with their little feeler gauges and measuring as they're machining. Now it's zeros and ones. The accuracy is off the charts, and every machine can talk to each other. So a guy that can run the software became ubiquitous, so that a guy that's running a lathe over here on this software can go over to this mill and run the same process on the mill with same or different software, but it all works the same way. And so it became unbelievably productive. And so no, Dmitri, the manufacturing of business is alive and well, growing and prospering. I'm starting my new podcast for just crane guys, because we all have just crazy, stupid stories doing crazy, stupid things with giant, heavy machinery.
well, you guys laugh, but the reason I asked is I bet you a lot of people don't even realize this. They're at home on their computer, and even when they're going from place to place, they're on their phones in their Ubers and their Waymos, that they don't see the cranes, they don't see the heavy machinery, they don't even know.
Yeah, you're right. If you ever wonder where toasters come from, it's out there, and but now you drive by and it used to be giant factories, and now they're all data centers. It's all these giant facilities, but no, it's still an amazingly vibrant thing, and people are still manufacturing stuff on a regular basis. It's a giant industry. And in 2000, when they crashed the airplanes into those buildings, and it caused really a collapse of the entire aerospace machine tool industry when the airplane stopped flying for a month or so. It was bad. And in 2001, I installed 97 brand new machine tools. Excuse me. In 2000, I installed 97 brand new machine tools, and in 2001, I installed 11. It was crazy. And these are multi-$100,000, multi-million-dollar machine tools that people are, it's a giant CapEx expense. It's something that was planned for years in advance. They have a job and a contract for this specific machine, for this specific throughput, and it's a capital expenditure that they're planning on getting a return on. And some of the manufacturing facilities that had been in Phoenix for decades and generations, because we had a very vibrant aerospace community because of World War II, and we had a aluminum foundry here. So anyway, we really had a vibrant community, and it went just in the shitter. It was unbelievable how many of these guys were going bankrupt, and it was kind of a hidden recession. Not many people really knew about it, but anybody involved in manufacturing knew about it. The 2000, everybody thought it was a dot-com bust. It wasn't a dot-com bust. It was a dot-com bust, but it was also a complete reshuffle of the manufacturing capacity in the United States. And at that time, all the big injection molders that are, we moved some injection molders that were 40 feet long, 15 feet wide, 15 feet tall, and weighed, 250,000 pounds. Every single one that we could get our hands on that was anywhere in the United States was being shipped to China in the early 2000s.
Mm.
And there's almost virtually no large scale plastic extrusion in the United States anymore. It's very energy intensive, and it's,
Tom, you were talking about, in the 2000s, let's go back to that. And you had this, you're moving online, you're trying to get rid of your prior business. You try to give it away to five buddies, and they had the deer in the headlights look when you explained it to them. We work with a lot of home services, blue collar guys, and they're just, as you know, they're anti-tech. Not that they're anti-tech, they just don't care about it. They don't understand it, and they don't care to understand. And so here you are in an industry that is in some ways anti-tech, or they don't care about it, and you're like way ahead of the curve, like thinking totally different. So then what's the difference, do you think, between you and the way you approach business in this blue collar type world versus the everyday person that is in that world, if that question makes sense?
I've got a confession. And every good VSL has a confession in it somewhere, right? I am completely non-technical. Nate will tell you, I can't even set up my own email. I'm not driven by technology. I don't really understand technology. There's so much about it that I just I can't operate it at all. I somehow am able to articulate what it is that I want it to do for me. So I'm really a non-technical person. But to answer your question, Chris, I've had this conversation with many people, especially younger people that are, embarking and being an entrepreneur. And when someone says, "Oh, I've had this great job for 10 years and I've never really started a business before, and I'm 35 years old and I really want to do something," brother, the ship has sailed. It's gone out the harbor. How old were you when you first started your first business, Chris?
Oh gosh, I was around that age, like 33
Really?
or so.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I had.
World. That's right.
Yeah, I came from the corporate world, but don't get me wrong, I had things I did prior to that. But to get out, I was around that age. Yeah.
My point is and that's a bad analogy, I guess, but it's either in you or it's not. And people either get it and they have a fire in the belly, and they're looking around corners. They're looking for opportunity. They're thinking, they're constantly trying stuff. Like, in your corporate career, you were probably trying little ventures and little stuff, and you're finally had some success. You're like, well, I can do this with a wife and kids. It's kind of, what you have to do. But I mean, my first business, I was 12 and I went down the street and started trimming palm trees. So I just have always been driven that way. And I'm a terrible employee. I've had the misfortune of or the people that have had the misfortune of hiring me on a couple of occasions, and I'm just a shitty employee, and I just, but I'm driven by like I said, just seeing opportunities. And nobody was thinking about putting rigging equipment online in 1997. Nobody was thinking, well, I had to certify all my forklift operators because I had all these giant forklifts. In 2000, OSHA came out with a law. You have to be certified to drive a forklift. And in the meantime, I'd gotten a letter from my insurance company saying, you have all these giant forklifts. According to this new law, if you have a claim, we're not going to pay it unless they're certified under this law. So I dug in and I figured it out. And I went into the OSHA reg and spent like a week locked up in a conference room by myself to figure this out. And it was just right there, plain as day. Online education for the classroom training portion. So I'm like, well, son of a bitch, I'm going to put this online and make a little tutorial. And I swear to you, we went live at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, and we had our first customer at 2:00 in the afternoon. They found it organically. What are the freaking odds of that? So when you know you have product market fit, and you know that I'm always, thinking about those kind of things that people just kind of walk right by. And I'm like, well, I still kind of have imposter syndrome. So I'm like, well, why isn't everybody doing this?
But really quick, follow-up question, if you don't, really quick, Dmitri, is, you're not, like you said, you're not technical, but again, you might have answered it by saying that it's just in you or not. But again, coming from your field, and then you start this online business, and then you end up in masterminds like War Room and Driven and all these marketing masterminds. This path is just so, the percentage chance of somebody going down this road is just so small, especially coming from that industry. So I guess my follow-up question is, how did you go from, okay, I'm start this online business. I don't know anything about tech stuff. I'll figure out how to get it done. then how did you transition into marketing and understanding that to blow your business up?
Probably a lot like you guys. I love it. I just love learning about marketing, and I love the psychology of marketing and sales, and the technology that goes into marketing and sales. I just really love it, and it's just something I really enjoy doing.
I think one of the most interesting things that you do is move things that weigh a lot. They weigh, I mean, you mentioned 450,000 pounds. I think people take it for granted that big things need to move from point A to point B without thinking about how or who, what kind of physics it requires, or whose toe is it going to fall on. Can you give us a little bit of insight on moving massively heavy equipment?
Sure. It's like you said, it's hard, and it's a lot of times it's just like Egyptian style, and it's hard to describe what it is that we do, because I say machinery and people think of backhoe, and it's totally different. So the thing to remember, and then I know we're talking about marketing and stuff, but the rigging thing is gravity is your friend. I have to remember that. And it's very easy to make things weigh half as much as they did with a fulcrum in the right point. You know what I mean? So I can cut it in half, I can cut it in half, I can cut it in half, and then I can get a little tiny bar underneath something and move a 400,000 pound machine an inch by myself with a bar. But you got to find that point that,
I think it's not, I know we're talking about marketing, and one of the reasons I'm asking is because I bet there's a lot of parallels between the difficult marketing tasks or business tasks that we have. And I think that's a great metaphor of figure out how to cut it in half and take a shortcut there. And eventually you can just do it. It seems like that's what you do in your career. You just say, I put up a site and I get customers calling me, but somehow you have this natural way of cutting things in half.
Yeah, and you're right, Dmitri. I got to couch that in a little bit of reality. When we do that, and I leaned into SEO because there was really no other channels. There was before there was Google pay per click, there was Overture, and Overture. I was one of the first people on Overture. I think, I don't know. They sent me barbecue tongs and some equipment and stuff back in the day, but really, the SEO stuff was just kind of like that. You just a lot of little tiny incremental things that stacked up to big moves marketing wise, and we dominated our space, and we still do to some degree, but for a long time with just some really stupid, basic, simple stuff that really no one else is thinking about. It's like even today. I mean, you should think about it. Neil Patel, who's just a smart guy, nicest guy you're ever going to meet, has a lot of followers, has a gigantic agency. He puts up a new video about SEO or AEO or any of those topics, and it gets maybe a couple thousand views. I mean, not many people are really interested in the stuff that we do, and that's where we get the leverage. And for me, I'm all about leverage. I like doing small things that create big movements or move big things. And I think that with the internet changing the way it's changed so much, just even in the last 3 years or 5 years or 1 year, those are huge opportunities. And like Dmitri, you have some leverage points in your professional career and traffic getting. And Chris, you have leverage points in your charisma and your ability to get people to buy into what you're saying and have faith in you, and you deliver it every time. So it's all about leverage and how you think about leverage, I guess.
Speaking of, you were saying you're doing your own podcast, and you're going to talk about some of the dumb shit you guys did when you were moving stuff. Is there any story that stands out that you could tell us that highlights the dumb shit?
Here's something I bet you didn't know about cars. I had a good friend who was right around the corner, and he had this press brake he had to move. And a press brake is kind of like a door standing on edge, and it has braces going back, but there's nothing in the front. And so it just literally, you look at it and it wants to fall over. And these things weigh like 20,000 pounds. And it's just for bending steel and putting like a 90 degree in a sheet metal. It's for bending steel. So he wanted to move this press brake on a Saturday because he had it sold to a guy. And I gave him my truck, gave him my guy, said, "Here, you just pay my guys cash, use my equipment. They can do a Saturday job." and everybody will be happy. So my guy's dragging the press brake out. Usually we build an outrigger for it. So it's like on a A-frame with rollers underneath it, and then you drag it out. But he's dragging it out, and the guy had his brand new Cadillac parked right next to the door, and he went over a little bump, and the thing just went bam! It just laid over right on top of this guy's. I mean, he literally taken delivery on this thing the day before, his brand spanking new Cadillac. And so it just smashed it to the ground. The tires popped. It just, smashed the whole thing down to the ground. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. I can't believe you guys did this. So I had to buy him a new Cadillac, but the insurance did. But anyway, when we lifted the machine up off the car didn't come up off the ground. All the suspension and everything, it just stayed squashed to the ground. And I kind of expecting it to pop back up, like, oh, maybe it'll be okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine the language used that day.
And another thing, we had a lot of adventures moving MRIs. You've probably all been inside an MRI machine, and they are very powerful magnets. And I know you guys understand physics, and the heavier something is, the more it wants it. And we've moved a couple of them, and through inch-thick plywood plates, plywood crate around these things, it would literally yank a 50-pound chain out of your hands from 10 feet away and just slam it up against the side of the thing. They are so powerful and so scary. I don't know if you've thought about that at all, but the magnets in those things are unbelievable when they're disengaged. They have to turn them on to get them to power down.
Tom, I want to ask kind of what's going to be a selfish question. Before I do, if you want to get the full notes to this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter. You're going to get the notes from this episode and every episode coming to your inbox every week. Those notes are gold because, if you're like me or you're listening to this show, you're like, wow, that is amazing information. And then the next thing is amazing. And the next thing, and then you forget the first two things. So subscribe to that. You don't want to miss it. So the selfish question I have is kind of back to what you're saying from 2000 and 2001, things going to China. Now we're into 2025 and China's in the news again, and now bringing manufacturing and industry back into the US is in the news. And where do we stand here geopolitically with all this big industry?
I'm out of that world now. I'm not really in that world. I haven't been in that world for a long time, but I have a lot of friends that still are. And there's never been a better time and a more vibrant time for manufacturing. And it really, the Trump and all these jobs and all this stuff, bringing it back from China, it was all kind of starting to happen anyway. And really the true technological innovations happen here. They don't happen there. And so I think that we're fine, and I think that it'll continue to grow. And at the end of the day, we're the guys that figure out how to build shit. So,
well, everything that's getting built right now in the US for AI, the infrastructure things, and those are big investments. You're seeing literally trillions of dollars, no exaggeration, hundreds of billions from individual companies like Facebook. I heard Zuckerberg say, if we spend an extra few $100 billion on this, like, oh, well. And so there's a lot of money coming into this. Do you think this is a bubble of some sort? This real infrastructure that's going to be critical to the future?
Because, there's going to be so much infrastructure and energy demands for the AI. And, they recommissioned the 3 Mile Island plant. That was, the 70s. They made a whole movie about how 3 Mile Island blew up and killed everybody, and it was a terrible tragedy. They're trying to scrap to find power. And I read somewhere, I think it's a Wall Street Journal or something, that if you went to GE right now and said, I want a brand new turbine to run my new power plant, they're 8 years out. And, these are heavy manufacturing, gigantic projects that create a tremendous amount of lead time. And it's going to take time for and all that manufacturing is going to be required to make that stuff. Like I did a job in 1997 and it was for Intel. And they were building a chip plant and kind of right in the heart of downtown Tempe, kind of a small facility, maybe, 7 or 10 acres. And they were building this little chip plant to make chips for anti-lock brakes. And they had a 4-year run on this thing. And they spent, $1 billion. We trucked in for this one plant. It was a small plant. I trucked in 119 truckloads of switchgear. The switchgear is electrical panels that go together. Some of them were like the breaker part was 10 by 10, and to have like 16 individual panels to go along with that one breaker. And there was like 38 of these things. So they sent them all to my warehouse. We unloaded them, we stored them, then we brought them out as they went into the job. But that was just one tiny job happening. But all those switchgears had to be made. All the bracketry that went into it, and all the piping and the wiring and everything, and all the trades working on top of each other at the same time, because they had to have this thing done. It was almost like a casino. A day that goes by, the casino's not open, costs a lot of money. There's a lot of liquidated damages if you're late opening a casino. Well, this was the same kind of thing, because they only had so much time and so much run rate on this one tiny chip for anti-lock brakes. And they just spent $1 billion building this plant. The scale, I don't get it, but I guess it pencils, it's pretty crazy.
Tom, quick transition
to
here.
answer your question, Dmitri, we're fine. We innovate, we build stuff, we build the machines that build stuff. So I think we're okay.
Tom, I spent a lot of time with your son, Nate. Shout out to Nate. And I think obviously you've had great success, and life is good for you. I think one of the biggest accomplishments I know of you is the way that your son talks about you when you're not around. My daughter, I've told you before, if my daughter's talking about me the way your son talks about you, I've won. I just love that dynamic. So you've had all this success, but it did not come at the expense of your relationship with Nate, for sure. And so how did you do that, man? Not a lot of guys around that time were able to do both, and you did it. So what was the difference?
Chris, I had a lot of friends, real estate, finance, bankers, starting construction companies, whatever. And they're in there thinking that they're working. I'm working till 8. I got to work, honey. I figured out early, and I just made a commitment, and Nate's mom made me make the commitment that I would be home for dinner every night. If I wasn't home for dinner, there was something catastrophic or super lucrative going on. So, like a really good job we're going to make a lot of money on. But that was her thing. And I agreed with her that if you really are thinking about it and you're concentrating and you're not dicking around, and you're still dicking around anyway, but you can get your work done by 5 o'clock. I mean, if you put in a whole shift, you can get your work done. And if you can't get it done, if there's really something that's that critical that you have to do it tonight, well, that's fine. But night after night after night, that's not doing it for your family or anything else. That's just in there, like my dad used to say, quit thumping your dummy and go to work.
Yeah, your dad must have had a lot of good sayings. That's a good one right there.
Well, the one I didn't listen to on my dad, I wish I had. He said, Tommy, if you're going to screw up. Find some rich contractor's daughter and marry her. Don't worry about what she looks like. Just marry her.
Man, I love that. Even in that example, we're talking about a rich contractor's daughter. Like we're not going digital. We're going.
I'm in Arizona. It's all about construction out here.
Yeah, and if she's in concrete, you're exactly. Good.
Right. Preferably electrical contractors. They make the most money.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay. So we've been talking. I mean, now that we're going on a little bit of a personal route, we've talked about big LBS poundage of equipment, but I know you're also in the big LBS of fish game. So, how is that something that you loved your whole life, or you got into, or is it a contractor's thing? I mean, if I want to get in contracting, do I need to start fishing for big game?
I grew up in Arizona. We have the Sea of Cortez, like literally 4 hours away. And I grew up fishing with my grandfather and my dad. My dad wasn't into it as much as my grandfather, and I didn't get to do it as much with him as I would have liked. And I think that, it's like Tony Soprano. His core hurt is his mom was just terrible to him, and that's why he's so terrible. But my core hurt was I didn't get to spend enough time with my grandfather fishing. So now I've got this chip on my shoulder to go out and, catch all the fish that he told me he wanted to catch that he didn't have a chance to catch, And he was really the amazing guy. My grandfather was just an extraordinary dude living in the 20s and 30s in Phoenix, Arizona. And that's where my whole entrepreneurial DNA came from, 100%. My dad was an engineer. He took over our family business in the crane and rigging business from his dad. And then he sold it when I was about a junior in high school. But he wasn't entrepreneurial. He wasn't the person to take the risk to have that, whatever it is. Does that make any sense? And I got it in spades. I was just always trying to hustle and, figuring out a way to make the biggest buck for the least amount of time and effort. That's why I didn't figure out was palm tree trimming.
Not bad. My last question here, Tom, is you've seen it all with the internet and selling on the internet and everything like that, and things are changing drastically. And so, what do you think is where is the biggest opportunity right now, given the way things are headed from your viewpoint?
I've said it before, Chris, and I'll say it again. And I think that what may have draws, each of us to this industry is that a lot of people hate change. They don't like change. I've always liked change. I embrace change. I love change. I seek change, not in my personal life or anything, but in business. I love the change. I love the challenges because I've proven it to myself. I've had so many competitors just come and go over the years. They think they found a basket on the ground. This is the coolest business ever. It's going to be easy. It's going to be great. And they fade away. And it's just, it's just because they just don't get it and they don't hang in there long enough. And it just takes some time,
Just hang in there. Keep going.
But the hanging in there with the complexity that to me, the complexity and the change is really the opportunity. I mean, the true opportunities come because of some change. Whether it's in my world, it was a seismic change. Oh my God, I have all these forklifts. I have to certify these forklift operators. What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Nobody's doing this, So there's that change is a catalyst to so much opportunity, and that's just where I live, and that's what I just love it.
Well, and
I'm an old guy. I got these young guys chasing me, man. It's crazy.
Well, that's a testament to what you've built and what you've done. That's pretty awesome, right?
Well, knock on wood, I've been very lucky.
Well, tell us a little bit. So it's certifyme.net, right? So that's where you're certifying forklift operators, aerial lift operators.
That's our main core, and then we sell them a lot of other stuff. We have 142 different safety certifications that we sell. We get them in the door with those, and like I said, we've been very lucky. We have a lot of customers that have been using this for a long, long time. They found a solution and just kept using it. And we're constantly trying to figure out ways to make it easier for them to use. And like this workers' comp tool that we built, there's the guys that I collaborated with, some insurance guys, they're paying a company $9,000 a month for the software to do the exact same thing. And I don't give a shit. I'm going to give it away because it's so easy. It would have taken 2 years ago, it would have taken 6 months and $500,000 to build this tool. And we built it over the weekend. Just screwing around. It's unbelievable how well it works. It'll Chris, every single one of your customers, I'll send you the link. Send you the video. Every single one of your customers, it'll say, oh, well, you could save $7,000 in your insurance. Oh, you could save $19,000. Oh, you could save $94,000. It does all the calculations, the whole thing, and it gives them a tool to go back and talk to their insurance agent and say, hey, this is wrong. You got to fix this. And they go, oh yeah, you're right. That is, we should have caught that. But they don't even check.
Nice.
So I'll walk you through the whole thing, man. It's pretty cool. But
So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Tom, in this age of where something used to sell for $9,000 and now you can give it away for free because you're able to build it over the weekend with this new technology and tools that we have. And I think a lot of people in this industry of online and working on your computer are kind of worried about maybe their job is going to get replaced by something and be built over the weekend. They're looking to get forklift certification or some kind of blue collar, traditionally called jobs. Can you give some advice being in the industry? What is the best place to go into if you want to start over in industry?
People should be scared. If I were going to do something, I'd become an electrician. The richest guys I know in Phoenix, the richest contractors I know are electrical contractors. And they do these giant jobs. An electrical engineer designs the whole damn thing, and they screw it up, and they don't know real world actually how to build this thing. And so it's a change order bonanza, and you get all the scrap, which is just wonderful because you take it to the scrap guy and you get cash. That was one of the best things. I missed the rigging business. I used to do these chillers, big giant, like 50,000 pound chillers in the bottom of buildings for air conditioning. Those things are full of copper. And I'd get them and I'd take it to the scrap guy. And we'd just sit there all weekend long, carving copper out of these things. I could turn, because the customer would say, well, God dang, what am I going to do with this thing? I'm like, I don't know. What are you going to do with it? Can you haul it off? Okay. You charging me more for it? Nah, don't worry about it. I got you. Sorry about that. That was a tangent.
No, that was perfect.
I never had cash.
That was good.
I think that's great advice, Tom. It's great to hear from you because you've got this perspective of marketing. You've got the experience from 1997 taking credit cards, but you're also in actual, real, physical, doing stuff with your hands, moving with pulleys, going to the scrapyard. I mean, some people don't even know what that is these days, and I think it's going to be more relevant than ever. So it's great to hear your opinions on this.
Well, the second richest guys in Phoenix are the scrap guys, besides your electrical contractors. No, it's been a wild ride, guys, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. But at the end of the day, it's just really comes down to embracing that change and being able to adapt. And not everybody can. I get it. My wife. I'm sure your wives say the same thing. You're like, why is that guy doing that? And they're like, honey, not everybody thinks the way you do, so.
Yes.
Did I hit it? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a universal truth.
Yeah. So not everyone thinks the way we do, and it's tough, but wouldn't trade it. But I don't know what's going to happen with all these kids, guys. And, like Tim Bradden was saying, some of these, 40-year-old mid-level software engineers are going, what's next? So
electrical field, scrap field.
How satisfying welding is? It is just the most purest pastime and job. I mean, there's so many great jobs that are out there, but it depends, like I'm not going to really do any of these things, and neither are you guys, but there are plenty of people that will want to. And, like my first iteration in business when as an adult, I was a demolition contractor because I was like, well, damn, these demo guys are just knuckleheads. If I just have half a brain in my head, I'll dominate. And I did. So, there's lots of things you can do in business, lots of things you can go after, but it's going to be a brave new world, guys. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't.
Well, in your words, Tom, change is where the opportunity lies. And for anyone with half a brain, I mean, this is the best time to go and take initiative and go try stuff. I mean, heck, regenerative farming is starting to pick back up again, and maybe that's another place to go into. I mean, there's probably tons of opportunity right now.
There's never been a better time. My dad used to always say, there's always room for one more. No matter what business you're going into, there's always room for one more. And if you are, out hustle, outshine, outwork, whatever, you'll do fine.
All right. Well, if you're in the training space, in these heavy type of machinery, forklift type of, and you need a certification, or you know a business where all their employees need certifications, go ahead and give them the certifyme.net link. And then, of course, look up Tom on social media. I'm sure you're going to be putting out your new podcast somewhere. So go ahead and follow him. And get all the insights that he has on. I'm sure that podcast is going to be hilarious, especially if you have more of your father's and grandfather's sayings on there.
Well,
That's
it's a small community, and I worked for some of it when I was a kid, and they farmed me out to the other boroughs, some of the biggest rigging companies in the world, and they all screw up and have catastrophic failures and accidents, and oh shit, I wish I hadn't done that, because they're just human beings, but they just happen to be operating giant pieces of machinery, So I'm excited about it. The other thing I'm excited about is that EMOD thing, Chris. I'll get that to your guys. It'll instantly save them money, instant money savings on their E-modifier for workers' comp insurance, guaranteed.
That'll be great. We'll drop that in the notes here as well.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody knows what EMOD is and workers' comp, but especially digital people, they don't have real workers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to need to know what that is. So you better grab the notes and subscribe to that newsletter right now.
Yeah.
Chris, before we wrap, anything else?
I'm good. I appreciate it, Tom. It was nice having you on, man.
Good times, guys. I'm glad we got to know each other a little better, and I'm looking forward to supporting you guys in any way we can.
Thank you, Tom. Great to have you on.
Yeah, cool.